gonna get the correct distance from the microphone. I always kind of try to make out with the microphone. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna read 3 poems. The first 2 poems I wrote while hiding in the storage closet at my current job, which is an office. They're about actually my old job, which was being a tour guide. So I was a San Francisco tour guide for a year and a half. And yeah, I know. And so after I stopped being a tour guide, I just had like all of these facts about San Francisco just like floating around in my brain, and I just like needed to like exercise them. So I started writing this series of poems just about different aspects of San Francisco. And I'm also from here, so I have like a lot of like history with the place and everything. So the first 2 poems are about different parts of San Francisco. The first one is about Chinatown. The Stockton war zone buzzes ruthlessly around the dirty 30. Alleyways smelling of fish and earthquakes, retrofitted with hexagonal bolts. The bricks layer stories of opium dens and gambling and dead prostitutes, cheap labor and fortune cookies. A rumor of tunnels, gang wars, and a quarantined plague. Despite rats and tiny rooms that house families, this is the crevice the marble rolls into. Everything else in the city slanted towards it until it sags with heavy life. The apex of tenacity, the place that fought back with decorated street lamps. This is where immigrants stripped of rights in 1892 after building our railroads, started bordellos and opium dens, spoke a dialect passed down from Chinese gold miners, the speech now existing only here in its purest form. This is where you buy live chickens and snap their necks before dinner, drink tea and shark fins, soak sea anemones in pools of water, eat dried squid like beef jerky, ripping the petrified bodies with your teeth. It's pretty hardcore part of the city. So when you're a tour guide for a year and a half, you start to kind of hate tourists. So, I don't know, you might like get a little bit of that in this next poem. It's about the Golden Gate Bridge. I got in trouble the time I told my tour about how somebody poisoned the goats that lived in my friend's communal backyard in Noe Valley. Their names were Neo, Trinity, and Morpheus, and they were employed to eat away the jungle of fennel. It was a true story, just like Jonathan's story was true. I watched the tour group's eyes as they chuckled at the sign, "There is hope, make the call." There were lots of things I couldn't tell them. If they brought these things up, I could only acknowledge them and change the subject. Like for, "What does your mom do?" I couldn't say, "She helps people die with minimal suffering." I had to say, "She's a geriatrician." They always wanted to know about me, but not too much about me. They wanted to know if this was really how I made a living. They wanted to know how much money I made, but they didn't ask. They wanted to know where I lived and how much rent I paid. What it's like to live in a city with so many homeless people. Why I would put up with the fog, whether I walk or take the bus. Mostly they wanted to know how tall the bridge was, what the distance between the roadbed and the water was at high tide, how much it sways in an earthquake, not whether I knew someone who jumped off of it, whether his body was found washed up on the rocks, whether his parents were both therapists specializing in teen suicide, whether his best friend started a petition to put up a barrier which was rejected so as not to ruin the aesthetic of the bridge, which they were currently enjoying. They looked at the International Orange and saw something that they recognized as having been destroyed in countless sci-fi films, eaten by sea creatures or bombed into collapse. They laughed at signs attempting to prevent suicides. Suicides were as far away as Oakland looked. Suicides from the bridge were caricatures of real deaths, deaths they had witnessed or heard about, that they left at home when they packed their bags with shorts they wouldn't wear to visit the city by the bay, signed up for a tour and sipped their Starbucks lattes that they only sprung for because they were on vacation, they weren't counting calories, they were walking from meal to meal and seeing bridges and sea lions in between, and maybe they'd learn about why the bridge was painted orange or why the sea lions sit on the decks like that. Are they sunbathing? Is it because of sharks? It's because of sharks, isn't it? Thank you. Okay, last one is just for fun. I wrote this a while ago. It's, I guess, what you would call a flurf poem in the MFA. It's called Chinese Food and Jerry Springer. Cashew chicken and rice, green onion pancakes. Why don't you tell the truth? It wasn't just him and I, we had a threesome. His trademark crow's feet, greasy broccoli beef. Bitch, you don't know what it means to have a daughter, you a stripper. Fortune, if we're all worms, try to be a glowworm. Until next time, take care of yourself and each other. Thank you.